Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. You know, sometimes you get someone in life who is just this loud, brash bore who talks, an unmitigated amount of shit. And you just sort of, oh, God, when they walk into a room, they empty it. They just suck the energy, the air out of it with their bullshit. And step forth Claressa Shields, because as good as she is, and she is a very good fighter, whether she's the best woman ever is open to debate, but she will not shut up about herself. And anything you mention, any other female fighter or anything else, any male fighter, she's got to mention herself and her achievements and all this. It's so tedious, so boring. And usually, most of the time, almost always, I can say, oh, just ignore the silly old cow, She was at the all-female card, the MVP card a couple of weeks ago. And there she was, dressed like a 70s Times Square brass. And she had not only one of those ridiculously gaudy necklaces with GWOAT written on it. What a stupid word, GWOAT. That acronym for greatest woman of all time, which again is highly debatable, but she's in the argument, don't get me wrong. She didn't have just one, she had two with this stupid GWOAT word on them. She cannot heap praise on herself enough. Okay. Now, of course, there's always the chance you might meet someone who is like that, who appears to be like that, and you might like them. You might get on with them. Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know. But as a public figure, I find her absolutely insufferable. And like I say, usually I can let it slide. But there's something was posted yesterday that I thought I've got to say something about this, because it's just so ludicrous, so ridiculous. And okay, you can only ignore the yapping dog for so long. And she said they were talking about Usyk being 3-time undisputed. Okay, and she said she actually tweeted, "I'm 4-time undisputed, but yes, I welcome the only other fighter to do it 3 times. Congratulations, Usyk." Shut up, you silly woman. Just shut up. Okay. You've achieved things in boxing. You've achieved, greatness in boxing. You've propelled women's boxing forward. But don't for a single second, for a single millisecond, for a single blip in time, think that you can compare your undisputed heavyweight title with Oleksandr Usyk's. I'm not going to go into Usyk, but his achievements, because anyone who knows the remotest thing about boxing should know about this incredible fighter. Okay, but let's compare. Let's take what you've just said, Claressa. Never mind the other divisions. We can talk about, how weak the other divisions were when you became undisputed in those divisions, and you got some good wins on your record. Savannah Marshall's an excellent win. You travelled to Britain, actually on 2 occasions, to fight Savannah. You got the win. I thought it was a very close fight, but you edged it, no problem, But let's talk about the heavyweight. Let's talk about heavyweights, just specifically. Now, we know about Usyk and his heavyweight achievements, okay, in very, very few fights, all right? 2 knockouts over Dubois, 2 convincing wins over Fury, 2 convincing wins over Joshua, okay? Those 3 opponents are leagues above anyone you've ever faced, okay, in terms of, allowing for gender and pound for pound and so on and so forth, all right? You're the undisputed female heavyweight champion. What people don't realise, perhaps they don't realise, is that when I checked a couple of months ago, this may have changed slightly, marginally, but I don't know. But when I checked 2 or 3 months ago, there were a grand total of 17 female heavyweight professionals in the world. In the world, okay? Professional heavyweight fighters registered as heavyweights, all right? So yes, you are undisputed champ by, I think she won. She beat a 42-year-old with half a dozen fights or whatever it was in her last fight. Don't be so moronic. Don't be so bitter. Don't be so ridiculous. Don't embarrass yourself to the absolute heavens by daring to compare your achievements to Oleksandr Usyk's, all right? You're a very good fighter, all right? But please, Claressa, shut up, all right? Nobody really cares about your constant bleating. And I know what you're going to say, and I know what her little, fanboys and fangirls are going to say. Yeah, well, you made a video about it. Yeah, I did make a video about it. I made a video to say that you're talking shit, because you are talking shit. Okay, so shut up, stop being such a bore, and the world does not rotate around you. You are not the absolute pinnacle of boxing, of even women's boxing. All right. One could argue that in terms of propelling women's boxing forward, Katie Taylor has done a lot more than you have, and you've done your bit. But this idea that you're the greatest female fighter ever, just by saying it endlessly, shouting it, screeching it from the rooftops, doesn't necessarily make it so. You're in the argument, but don't forget the era in which you fought, which you won a lot of those titles, a lot of at all weights, was a weak one, because women's boxing was growing very well, incrementally, a few quantum leaps here and there, definitely. I'm a big supporter of women's boxing. If you watch my channel, if anyone's watched my channel, they know I support women's boxing. But I'll tell you now, right, you picked up a lot of those belts against fourth raters. All right, so shut up. Learn a bit of modesty. Stop being so crass and vulgar. Leave the gaudiness for all that crap attire that you wear, all that shit jewellery. And give Oleksandr Usyk and some other fighters, including some female fighters, give them a few props, because they deserve it too, all right? So that's got that off my chest, and I'll catch you later. Subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. Later on, enjoy your day. Bye for now.